Good afternoon, everyone. Exciting time, finally back to the grant season. We'll give it a few more minutes, just give everyone a chance to roll in. We've got a lot of important information to cover. So maybe about 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. If you want to leave your name and organization in the chat, that would be good. Thank you. All right, looks like a few more people are still rolling in. We'll give it about 1 more minute. All right, so we'll get started. We are going to start with a PowerPoint, just letting you know about the MFSP application for this year. And then we'll follow up with just a brief tutorial about our new grant management software system to kind of get everyone accustomed to using that. All right, so your hosts today are myself and Courtney. I can't see you, Court, because you're small, but if you want to say hey.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
All right, so we'll just start with the history of the MFSP application. The Minnesota Food Shelf Program, or MFSP, as you know it, was established by the state legislature to support food shelves throughout Minnesota and reduce food insecurity for low-income Minnesotans.
Yep, thank you. And I'll just provide a little bit of additional background too. I'm at a conference, so I hope that folks can hear. It's really hard to make changes to policy and statutes, but the last few years have taught us that it's really possible. We've had some really big successes making changes to the MFSP grant recently. We were able to make a language change within the statute to include tribal nations, allowing their eligibility for the grant. And the most recent success was a huge increase in base funding for MFSP. So I want to thank you all for helping make this possible. Your work and the data collected via the monthly stats reports allowed the decision makers in the state to get an accurate picture of how much Minnesota's hunger needs have increased. We went from 3.5 million annual food shelf visits over the last few years to over 5 million last year alone. Agencies need more sustainable funding to keep up with the folks that you're serving. So this year's MFSP grant offers that additional funding at a time when it's really, really needed. Another change that has been in effect for the last few years is the addition of the Cultural Collaboration Grant. This grant supports the fantastic work that's being done to serve diverse communities in Greater Minnesota. The MFSP grant dollars also fund the emergency grant, which is used to support MFSP grantees who are experiencing situations that are impacting their service. Stephanie will talk more about these grant opportunities in a bit. Steph, can you go to the next slide? So MFSP is an annual grant that follows the state fiscal year of July 1st to June 30th each year. This year, we will distribute $4.4 million in grant funds, and that's the new amount approved by the legislature, which is amazing. For reference, until this year, we distributed about 1.5 million each year, so it's a big come up for Minnesota. And I want to remind folks that when applying for the grant this year, and each year really, to pay close attention to the grant assurances. As with all funding, there are things that you as potential grantees are agreeing to do. Things like submitting monthly stats reports and completing a final report on time are both examples of requirements that go along with this funding. So please reach out to Stephanie if you need anything during the grant year. Thank you for your work, and I'll pass this back to Stephanie.
All right, so it is a non-competitive grant. So we're doing a standard base of up to $5,000 for all eligible grantees for each brick and mortar food shelf location that they operate. So this is very similar to how we did the emergency response grant back in May. The grantees will then receive additional funding, additional remaining funds based on their percentage of statewide program visits between the fiscal year July 1st, 2022 and June 30th, 2023, which is good because it will get that increase that you guys have been seeing in there. And then any mobile programs that each grantee operates will have their mobile program visits between the same period included in your funding calculation, but there will not be an additional base for the mobiles. And then new grantees without mobile program stats will only be eligible for base funding. So this is the grant eligibility. Nonprofit organizations with 501c3 status and tribal nations with food shelves are eligible for the MFSP grant if they currently participate in TFAP, have ordered TFAP product within the last year, have TFAP approval for each site they're applying for, and are in good standing with TFAP and their food bank, and have provided complete and accurate monthly statistics for the period of July 1st to June 30th, 2023. So these are just the definitions of kind of how we've defined like brick and mortar food shelf versus like a mobile food program. So a food shelf is the physical brick and mortar food shelf location designed to distribute free food directly to those in need. There's no limit to the amount of brick and mortars that an organization would be able to apply for or can include on their application. So just an example, if you have 2 brick and mortar food shelf sites, you'll include both of those on your application. You'll receive the base funding of the $5,000 for both of those locations. And then your service statistics for both will be included in your final grant calculation. And then for those mobiles, we define those as a food distribution program that's designed to bring free food to those in need who may be experiencing barriers to accessing food from traditional brick and mortar food shelves. So your statistics from your mobile programs that have their own unique food bank ID and report their service statistics separately will be calculated into your MFSP grant total. So you won't get an additional $5,000 for those mobiles, but when you go ahead and fill out your application, you'll include both the information for your brick and mortar and the mobile. So if you have one physical food shelf, you run one mobile, you'll include everything on the application, and then you'll get the base funding for the physical, and then the mobile stats would be included in your final grant total. Who is not eligible? Meal programs, food programs not in good standing with their TFAP provider, Just an important note of how important the stats are. Late stats are not acceptable. Food programs must submit accurate service statistics to their regional food bank by the 10th of each following month, including the number of children, adults, and seniors served, households served, and pounds distributed. This is important. It's in the TFAP contract to keep you in good standing. If you're not registered as a TFAP provider with your food bank or enrolled in TFAP, you would not be eligible. And then if you fail to submit any final reports for your previous grants, again, you would not be eligible. The allowable expenses are pretty much the same. Whatever you need to operate your food shelf, basically. Food operating costs, personnel, space, utilities, transportation, refrigeration and storage, mobile food costs, technology, PPE, trainings, pretty much whatever you need for your food shelf. If you have any questions about whether or not an expense is eligible, feel free to reach out to me and I'll let you know. Final reports. So the MFSP grants must be spent down by June 30th, 2024. So your period for documentation for those receipts, things you purchase, would be November 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Grantees are required to submit a final report documenting how MFSP spending money was spent. These final reports would be due on July 15th, 2024. They must be submitted online via the grant submission portal. And you'll see kind of a little bit of the new software once we go into it, but it'll be really nice. Everything will be included for you. You'll just log in and have access to all of your information, be able to submit your reports, see your grant amounts, all of those things. If your final reports are submitted late or failed to be submitted, HSM and or DHS may request the funds back, and your program may be ineligible for future funding. And then if you or a food program has not submitted your final reports for the 2022-2023 grant year, you won't be eligible this round of for this round of funding. If you have any questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to me and I can double check for you if you've gotten everything in. Grant monitoring. So Hunger Solutions staff will conduct annual fiscal reviews on site, via phone, and or virtually of all the grantees that receive $50,000 or more in combined funding annually. We'll collect the source documentation, just receipts, food receipts or purchase receipts, just verifying that the grant funds were spent on allowable expenses. If you're required to participate in a monitoring visit, additional information will be sent out to you closer to that time. And then all grantees must keep documentation of how the funds were spent for 7 years. However, only the agencies required to participate in monitoring need to submit those documents. And so then following this meeting, we'll go ahead and send out these slides for you with the presentation included. You'll have the link to the application, which will be open. And then here it's just showing you the application link. We will not be doing any paper applications this round, so everything must be submitted online going forward. Only one application will be submitted by each agency, and that will include all the information for your brick and mortar and mobile program. So it'll all be added on one application for you, so you won't have to fill out multiples if you have multiple agencies. And then communications will come from HSM, DHS, OEO, and your regional food bank with more information about the application. So you'll get that, you get those today. The application will open today following the meeting and will close Friday, October 6th at 11:59 p.m. And then Hunger Solutions will distribute funds on behalf of DHS OEO in early November. So TFAP ID number or your food bank ID, some of you call it, or a program ID is required to apply for the grant. You won't be able to get through the application without it. It's a unique number given to you by your food bank. It may appear on your invoices or be used when placing food orders. So we put a few examples in case anyone is confused about what that number would be. So if your food bank was the food group, your ID will begin with TFG followed by 4 numbers. So TFG 1234. For second harvest, it would be C followed by 4 numbers, a dash, and 2 numbers. So it would be C1234-01. And if you can't locate that ID number, please reach out to your food bank representative and they'll get that for you. It's helpful for us to be able to calculate your stats accurately for your grant. So we need the proper ID number. A little bit about the other 2 grants that we'll offer following this MFSP grant. So the Cultural Collaboration Grant is a competitive grant whose aim is to support organizations that operate outside of the 7-county metro to improve food program services to BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color communities. So it'll be up to $160,000 will be distributed to TFAP eligible food shelves in tribal nations located outside of Anoka, Carver, Dakota, Hennepin, Ramsey, Scott, and Washington counties. And so some things that those grant funds would be used for would be like culturally specific foods, translation services, multicultural staffing, transportation expenses, and outreach, things like that. The other grant opportunity that we have is a much smaller grant, and that's the emergency grant. Those will be up to $5,000. And that's made available to MFSP grantees kind of later in the year just to assist in any emergency situations that could hinder their ability to continue to offer service to their communities. So that would be like natural disaster or fire or loss of other funding. A lot of times people's refrigerators will break down and they only have one. Those type of situations we consider an emergency. And so again, that is also a competitive grant application, and it'll open late fall, and then it just remains open until those emergency funds are expended. And there's more information that will come along with both the Cultural Collab and the emergency grant. And then again, the recording of the meeting, the PDF guidance document, and the application link will be sent out to everyone following the meeting. I'm just going to take a look here in the chat and see if I missed any questions. Yep, so just use Melissa, just use the ID. Yep, thanks, Courtney. All right, so are there any further questions about this at this time? You can always email me as well if you think of anything.
I did have a question, Stephanie. This is Chad from the Walker Food Shelf. We're the fiscal agent of a food pantry program located in an elementary school that they order through us or through our agency through Second Harvest. Would we be able to apply on their behalf as well and consider that a second food shelf under this, under the annual grant?
If they report their service statistics separately and have their own TFAP ID number, then that would be considered a separate brick and mortar location. So that would be accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, if there's no other questions, and again, feel free to reach out to myself or Court if you have anything else. But we will just take a quick look at what it might look like for you when you try to log in to fill out your application later today.
Hey, Stephanie, this is Jennifer from Channel One. I do have a
Hey.
question. So the base is $5,000. Is there a max amount like there was for other MFSP grants and other statewide grants?
I think there is a max grant amount. One moment. Rachel, did we stay with 75?
Yes, for the emergency response grant, the maximum grant award organization could receive was $75,000. We are going to be reviewing kind of the statistics and everyone's grant total to determine if that is needed. If so, we will let you know if there is a maximum grant amount. So stay tuned on that. Stephanie, there's an additional question in the chat here. I'll read out for you. With the addition of new funds to the pool, do we have any idea how much we might expect to receive compared to previous years?
So we anticipate that it will look similarly to the emergency response grant if you received that grant in May. So it should look very similar to that. And then Rachel, were you going to share the slides or?
I can pop on to share the grant management software. I just want to make sure there are no more additional questions on eligibility or anything like that before we get into that. Okay. All right. So new this year, Hunger Solutions is going to be using a grant database software called Wise Hive. That's the name of the software that we're using to collect all grant applications and all grant final reports. So this is something we're doing a little bit differently. In the past, we've had paper applications or a jot form application form. So this is going to help everyone kind of keep better track of their grant awards, how much they've received from us, be able to locate previous grant information. So when you need to pull out that acceptance letter or reward letter for audits or anything like that, you'll be able to log onto the system and have all of the information you need about your funding through the Minnesota Food Shelf Program. So this is a just a quick little overview of how the system works. So you can kind of keep note. Also, please note, we will share a PDF document of exactly all the steps you need to go. So you will have a document to be able to reference if you run into any issues or errors kind of with the system. So the first thing that you'll want to do when logging on to complete your application is you'll be at our homepage here. It looks just like this. If it is your first time here, you'll want to click the sign up button here and create a login for your account. So very standard here, enter your email address and your password, create an account, and it will take you to a page that looks like this. So the next step after creating a login is to create a profile for your agency. So this profile will have all of the information that we need to be able to get in touch with you about your grant information, everything that you would normally enter into an application will be entered in here. You'll include your name of your agency. So let's just say agency name, the address here, your city, your state, and I'm just going to go through this with us all. Sorry if it's boring to watch me fill this out, but I want to make sure that everyone knows exactly the steps that you need to take. You'll want to enter in your phone number and your employee identification number. So this is your tax ID number that you want to make sure that you enter. If you're applying with a tribal nation, you don't have that number, a 0 is all you need to enter in there. This will be your primary contact information. It is really, really important that this information on your user profile is kept up to date. This is the person who will receive all communications on grant approvals, all in communications on when the final report is due, which, as you heard during our PowerPoint, it's very important that you get that up to, you get that final report in. So make sure that this contact person has a steady and reliable email address that they are checking often, because this is the main way that we will communicate with you about your grant information. So you'll enter in your information here. Your phone number will go in here as well. If your organization or agency has someone who is different than the primary contact that handles the finances, whether that's someone in accounting, you know, controller, anyone that is the best person to talk to if bank account information needs to be updated, and you want that to be a different contact than your primary contact, you're able to enter in their information here as well. So, you know, when we have a question about the ACH payment of your grant, we can contact your finance contact instead of you. That's something you can add in here if you want to remain the main contact, or if you don't have someone like that at your agency, you can go ahead and just say it's the same. So once you've completed your profile here, you'll want to make sure to click the button on the bottom or the top that says Create Profile. You can always click Save Draft if you need to pull up some information. Anytime you log back into this system, anytime you click Save Draft, all your information will be saved in there and you can edit it. And again, anytime you need to edit that profile, if you are leaving your agency and someone else is going to be replacing you, you're able to click in here to edit that information, change the primary contact information moving forward. So you make sure your agency isn't missing any important information. So it is very important, again, to keep that profile updated, as that's our main way of getting hold of you once your grant application has been submitted. So now that that step is done, you can go ahead and get started with your application form. This big button down here that says Get Started is all you need to click on there. At any point, you can come back to this homepage and you can kind of see what's going on with your application. So if there's something that's blue here, that means that there's missing something and there's information that still needs to be completed. If you see any red, that's usually a telltale sign that something went wrong. So there might be a little error there. And if it just looks out like it's grayed out once you've submitted your application, then we're all set. So all those instructions are listed on here, but to get started, click Get Started. Easy enough. This will take you to the application form for your agency. Right away, you'll want to open that application form and get started. Again, at any time, we can save a draft of your application form. You can always come back to this. This is a standard application. Not much has changed in this application than our previous forms that we have used. So auto-populate your contact information right here. So it makes it real nice and easy for you. There are a few eligibility questions, just ensuring that your agency is a 501c3 organization or affiliated with one, or a tribal nation, that you participate in TFAP, and that you're based in Minnesota. All of these do need to be true in order to be eligible for this grant. So like we had mentioned, you are eligible to apply for all brick and mortar food shelf locations that you run and operate as an agency. They will give you an option to add up to 5. I don't believe there are many agencies that operate more than that, but if they do, just make sure to reach out to Stephanie. She'll be able to walk you through the process of doing that. Vast majority of us are only entering 1 food shelf information, which is perfectly fine. You click 1 here. You'll want to enter in the name of the food shelf. This is where you'll enter in, oops, I can't spell today. This is when you'll enter in that food bank program ID. Here are some more examples as well. Second Harvest, the food group, any other food bank will have kind of a format there. So you'll enter in your food bank ID number here, your address, And this is actually the address of the actual brick and mortar location. So if that is in a different place than an agency headquarters or something like that, that information will be added here. Oops. If you have a different mailing address, please let us know that there as well. If not, you don't have to worry about that. We use this application form as a great way for us to make sure that we're understanding where your programs are. In addition, at Hunger Solutions, we use this information on our Minnesota Food Helpline, which for anyone who may not be familiar, it's a statewide resource line where anyone can call and locate a food shelf in their area. So this lets us make sure that we have up-to-date information about the programs you're running. So when people call in your communities, we're able to keep them updated. So please make sure you're filling out this as detailed as possible. If that's Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays from 1 to 5, let us know that. You can add any additional information here. This is open to add your hours however you would like. And then the number of times that you allow clients or shoppers to receive your services each month as well. Please add that. So that's all the information we collect on each brick and mortar shelf. Again, if you have more than one, it will auto-populate location number 2, location number 3, and so on. Right here, so you can all submit it just on one application. No need to do applications for each separate site. In addition, we are collecting information on any mobile food shelf programs that you do run that have their unique TFAP ID and that are tracking stats separately. So if you are operating a mobile food program like that, you'll want to let us know that information as well. This will just help us make sure that that information is included in the roundup of your service statistics and you are getting your grant calculations based on those programming. So same questions added here. Let us know your food bank ID, your address, the name of the program, where you distribute, and all of that kind of information. Make sure if there's a different mailing address, if it's not a different mailing address and you've already added that once, you don't need to keep adding that for each location. Just let us know, and we'll have one different mailing address in it when we look at your records. So no worries there. And then if again, you have more than one mobile program, that will auto-populate here, and you'll just fill out the required information. And that is about it for the application form, all the information we collect. Down here are the assurances that Courtney had mentioned earlier. These are what you are agreeing to do and how you're agreeing to operate your programs if you are receiving these funds. So please make sure that you're reading these before you submit. You'll want to click the I agree to the terms listed, type in your signature here, the date in which you are submitting this application. If for some reason you need to save this draft, let's say you need to confirm what your food bank ID is, click Save Draft. That will save this all information for you so you don't have to come back in and refill everything when you log back in. But once it is done, you are able to mark your application form complete. That's the next step here on this blue button. You'll click Mark Complete. And then it will bring you back to this home page. So this is the page where you'll be able to edit your application form if you need to. This is when you'll come back. If you've saved a draft, you'll be able to re-enter this and enter all the information you need. Some more information just about the grant application is listed here in case you forget which date the application is closing. If you want to reference the grantee guidance document for any questions that you may have, you can find that there as well. But when you are done with your application form, the most important step and the last step in this process is to click Submit Application. This will lock your application and you will not be able to make any changes once you've clicked that button. So make sure everything is up to date on that form before you submit. And that is the process. Once that is submitted, It says that there. Stephanie's email is listed right on this page if you have any questions. This page will update your status. So once we receive all the applications, you'll be able to check that there as well. But you will receive the approval letter from Stephanie with your grant amount and additional information. At any time, you can click here and view your application. If you need to print it off for like an audit or something like that, you're able to find it all right here, all the information that you've provided. If you do need to print it, you can click this little blue form right here and click print, and that will open up a printable document for you. So everything you need for the application is found right here on this homepage. In addition, once approved, this homepage is where you will find your final report to submit. So it makes it really nice and easy. Just log in and all the information that you'll need for the grant will be listed right here on this website. Anyone have any questions about how to apply or the application process?
I just have a quick question. We're moving more towards the electronic storage of like the PDFs of our applications and stuff versus storing them for paper. Is there a way that we can download the PDF of this as well, or is it just in printable format?
Yes, you can download it when you print it. Yep, same thing. Good question, Jeff.
I have a question. This is Eric Mullen, Catholic Charities Food Shelf St. Cloud. So is this account we're creating is only for this grant? We're not creating an account that would include information on other grants that we're applying for. So we would create a username password for every grant.
So no, that's a great question. So your username and password, you'll be able to apply in addition to the cultural collaboration grant once that grant's announced, as well as the emergency grant. So all of the grant informations for the entire Minnesota Food Shelf program will be housed here.
I guess one additional question towards that then. I will be the one applying for this grant as the program manager, but our organization has a grant writer for some of the larger grants that she would also then be applying for, and that position often has turnover. And so could I also add for another grant, could it be me, the primary name as the program manager, and also the primary or a secondary name as the grant manager? Is that the grant specialist?
You'll be able to have different primary contacts. However, your username and login would be the same one, if that makes sense, Eric. So let's say I would recommend when you have a username here to do, maybe if you have an organizational information kind of group email that you can use so everyone can log in and then different people can submit different applications. You're able to do that, but you'll need one login in general.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. And I understand there's a lot of people kind of playing different roles in a lot of grant applications and things like that. So if any of those other questions arise, reach out to Stephanie and we can walk through kind of the best course of action for you on that. We're also able to change contact information. So if you have staff turnover and they weren't around to change their information, let us know and we can do that too. So. And then again, just reiterating, we will send out a document that lists all of those steps, shows you where each button is and everything that you need. So hopefully it will be a real easy process for everyone to get in and submit their applications, but don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Okay, back to you, Steph.
That's all I had. If there's no further questions. Anyone?
Sorry, is this the same application that was used last spring?
The application is very similar. It's just housed on a different platform. So
Correct.
It's pretty much the exact same thing.
So do we have to go in and we just go in and automatically log in, or do we have to create a whole new?
Yep, so you would create a username and password and kind of set up a profile like she walked through in the beginning. And then once you have that, you can continuously log back in as you need and see all of your information. You'd be able to see your award letters and all of that stuff just in that one spot for you.
Okay, so we can't use the one we used previous.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? No, the previous awards will not be visible in this system. So just everything going forward.
We are hoping to incorporate the final report for the emergency response food shelf grant into this system. So stay tuned on information like that. It would be nice and easy if we can incorporate that, even though that grant has already been distributed. So we'll let you know if we're able to get that on there for you as well. And that will, we should be able to auto-populate that. So your grant total and the final report will be available on here. But we will make sure to send out all that information about that, because that final report is also due in June. So keep in mind, if you receive that grant, we'll need a final report, and we're hoping we can get it all on the same system.
Any other questions? Well, if you think of anything, feel free to shoot me an email and I will get that answered for you as soon as possible. Otherwise, happy grant season. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.